Hey guys, Brian Taylor, author of 12 Blackened Petals. I want to take a second and thank you for stopping by this fantastic experience you're getting ready to go on. This is chapter 1 that you're getting ready to listen to, and chapter 2 follows this one. It's in another video. I'll pull these 2 chapters down tonight or tomorrow and put 2 new chapters up. So check it out while you can. I hope you enjoy it. A couple quick tips. Number 1, great headphones. If you got some good headphones, put them on. Earbuds will work, that's fine. But if you have access to some really good headphones, I suggest you use them. If you're not using headphones and you're listening to this straight up, just use a good sound system. I promise you it'll be worth every second of it. This book has a soundtrack and sound effects, and a lot of audiobooks don't do that, so this is kind of how I differentiated myself. You can purchase this audiobook in the links down below or up above according to where you're viewing this. And finally, I really hope you like this, man. Tell people about this. Let people know about this amazing experience. This thing starts on level 10 and just keeps going up from there. So by the time you get to the end of the book, it is just non-stop action. It's go, 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 go. I think you're gonna love it. Anyway, thanks for swinging by. Thanks for choosing to watch 12 Blackened Petals. This is the Gospel of Sam.
In our ignorance, we thought our only option was to fight. We thought that if we killed him, we would protect ourselves, our way of life. However, it was through this violence that we brought great misery upon ourselves. No one knew that self-preservation would bring such horror to us. Millions died. Millions more were never found. We did not understand. Our God was not a vengeful God. He just didn't want to be fucked with. Chapter 1. Good morning, Mr. Rittenhouse. A slow stream of consciousness began to waft through Sam's brain like the smell of bacon that fills the air right before someone eats it all. The ever-so-vivid dreams that can never be remembered rapidly began to erase themselves, as his eyebrows raised just enough to barely crack his eyelids. It was the start of what promised to be yet another dull-as-hell day in the life of Sam Rittenhouse. He could pretty much map out the day before it began. He would take the next 20 minutes to wrangle himself out of bed, which was not a bed. It was a couch. Sam could neither afford a bed, nor did he have a place for a bed in his ultra-tiny apartment. The one-room studio apartment was the ultimate in downtown living, super cramped and small, very expensive and located in an overpriced part of town, full of a bunch of well-to-do, cooler-than-you, bike-riding, beard-growing douchebags, or hipsters as they refused to refer to themselves. The apartment was little more than a room and a closet. It did not even have a kitchen. There were only 2 plugs. One powered the microwave that sat on top of the empty mini-fridge. The other plug was across the room and remained empty. It was located in the vacant space where Sam imagined there would be a large flat-screen TV. The reality of it is that Sam may never be able to afford a flat-screen TV, or any TV for that matter, seeing as he could barely afford rent, or food, or basic hygiene products. Once he managed to get himself up off of the slobber-stained, crumb-stashing couch, he would wobble his way into the closet. For some reason, in his closet, there was a shower, and a sink, and a toilet. This closet listed as a bathroom in the apartment description. They called it a spacious bathroom with all of the amenities, but every morning Sam would call bullshit on that. In a still sleepy stupor, he would fumble for a highly overused toothbrush that was broken and duct taped back together, like a pair of glasses on some poor egghead's face. The toothbrush would go under the water and into his mouth straight away without any toothpaste. Sam hated toothpaste and believed it was a conspiracy derived by the government to get people to spend more money on things they didn't need to drive them into poverty, thus making it easier to exert control over the populace. At least that's what he told himself to feel better about being too poor to afford the simple things that most Americans take for granted. Raking the flavorless, worn brush across his teeth, Sam began to contemplate the rest of his day. There were some different options to consider. He knew it was close to noon, and that gave him about 5 hours before his shift started at the restaurant. 5 hours of chill before 8 hours of hell. Ideally, he would start the day off by firing up a fresh bowl of super sticky weed before commencing with the day's events. But recreations such as marijuana were for those with a quote-unquote silver spoon in their mouth. Instead, he would run some water over his hands and slide his fingers through his short-cut dark hair, in an attempt to make a severe case of bedhead appear to be somewhat purposeful. As he made the initial spit of plaque-filled saliva into the sink, he felt a slight twinge of pain that would come like clockwork from a cavity in the far back left molar. Flexing his neck muscles in coordination with squinting his eyes and scrunching his brow, Sam let out a gut-wrenching groan. This was the only way he could deal with the annoyance that persisted in killing him for almost a year. He reached back to the sink and grabbed a nearly empty container of Orgel from the spot opposite of where his toothbrush resided. With the precision of a well-oiled machine, he squeezed out the perfect pea-sized portion, as recommended by the manufacturer. He then slammed it into the aching tooth while reciting a quiet internal prayer for the pain to stop. This sudden onslaught of pain would dictate his actions for the rest of the day before his shift started. Originally, he planned to go out and train a little parkour with his longtime friend Frank. He was itching to get another crack at that gap that they had been eyeing for a while. He bailed the previous 3 times after making exactly 23 run-ups, followed by 23 screams of frustration at not having the balls to follow through on the jump from one roof to another. The screams were what his friend Frank referred to as the mating call of the North American bitch. Instead, he would need a bit of a relaxed day. He needed a day that would help keep his blood pressure and heart rate low. The last thing he wanted to do today was to piss off his tooth and spend the rest of the day with his hand cupped against his cheek. Instead of spending a sweaty day of frustration on some rock-covered rooftop, he would spend the day with the love of his life, Julia. Julia was a stunning young woman. She was 5 foot 4 inches tall with beautiful locks of flowing black hair, the kind of hair that fell perfectly on her shoulders every day. It was always perfectly styled as though she spent all day with her stylist. Every strand was always in the exact right location, even the ones that fell in front of her face. They were perfect because they would force her to push it back behind her ear as she looked up at him with those gorgeous brown eyes. They, too, were also perfect. In fact, Sam could spend the entire day just talking about how perfect everything on her was. He even wrote down a list and memorized all the things that he deemed perfect. The list was up to 243 different things. Many of them were subtle expressions or repetitious actions and habits that any human may have. But to Sam, they were noteworthy and deserved to be not only written down, but also committed to memory. It was his plan to recite all of them to her once he completed the list. However, that may never happen because Sam possessed neither the balls nor the sack that it took to tell Julia that he loved her. In fact, he had not even told her that he liked her in that fashion. He attempted it once while they were in a 3-hour-long gaming session. He remembered it clearly. There she was in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair pulled back into a ponytail. He was getting his ass handed to him because he couldn't focus on the game as he was waiting for just the right moment. As the words were gearing up in the back of his throat, preparing to make their bold and dramatic exit from his lips, he received the most crushing blow to the confidence that any potential suitor could ever endure. He was friend-zoned. Despite popular belief, being friend-zoned does not automatically put the flame of passion out in a young man's heart. It only forces him to find clever ways to hide it. As time passes, he would need to make a choice, either hold the flame or extinguish it and move on. He decided that neither of these could be considered as suitable answers. Instead, he made the decision to pour gasoline on the fire and refused to call the fire department. Sam was headstrong with passion. He had never truly been in love before, and he thought that if he were patient and waited for her for just the right time, he could convince her that he was just the right person for her. She just needed to see that side of him. Truth be told, Julia always thought he was attractive. She found him funny and witty. He possessed 3 out of the 4 credentials that someone needed to capture her romantic interest. Sam knew this. On the front side of his brain, he could not for the life of him figure out why he was friend-zoned before the words could even get out of his mouth. It was a riddle that he needed to solve. How to possess those 3 amazing traits that she loved so much and leverage them in his favor for access to her heart. Nevertheless, on the backside of his brain, he knew that a guy needed all 4 traits before she would allow someone to get close to her in that special way. Moreover, that 4th trait eluded him. It was there in him, just as it is in every human being. For some, it's buried just below the surface. For others, it could be buried quite deeply. For Sam, his courage might as well have been buried under the city in a concrete room inside of a stone box. The benzocaine-laced anesthetic was finally starting to do its job. Sam could feel the pain backing off, and the rhythmic pulse that was pounding in his tooth began to subside. He needed a smoke, and if he was going to catch up to Julia before she started her day, he needed to hustle. He grabbed the same pair of clothes that he was wearing the day before and his backpack and bolted out the door. As he rhythmically bounced down the stairs, he caught a slight whiff of his armpit. Though he was sure it was him, he felt an overpowering urge to double sniff just for verification. Yep, it was him. The odor was not the kind of smell that would disturb others. This was the kind of smell he would spend the rest of the day wondering if Julia could smell. It might just be best to take care of that, he said to himself. He reached into his bag and pulled out one of the few hygiene products that he actually owned. The 2-year-old stick of Old Spice deodorant lived in his bag for quite some time now. The label was marked, worn, and tattered, but the gel inside still did its job. With a little thought, he stuck the stick under his shirt and into his armpits. After making himself smell like a 15-year-old boy, he quickly lit the cigarette that was hanging from his mouth, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and began the journey through the city. Julia's apartment was only 12 blocks away. It was a short walk for a good cause. Not everybody gets to see angels.